Welcome to a lesson on modeling fraction multiplication using the idea of copies. Before we talk about fraction multiplication, let's talk about the idea of copies using whole number multiplication. So for example, if we have 3 times 4, we can think of this as having 3 copies of 4. So if we have 3 copies of 4, this would be 1 copy of 4, this would be a second copy of 4, and this would be a third copy of 4. Now we can see that 3 times 4 equals 12. Now let's consider 4 times 3. We know 4 times 3 is equal to 3 times 4, and therefore this product is 12. But using the idea of copies, we can view 4 times 3 as having 4 copies of 3, which is a little bit different than having 3 copies of 4. If we have 4 copies of 3, this would be 1 copy of 3. This would be a second copy of 3. This would be a third copy of 3. And finally a fourth copy of 3, giving us a product of 12. Now let's consider 3 times 1/2. We can view 3 times 1/2 as having 3 copies of 1/2. So if each rectangle represents 1 unit, each green shaded region would represent 1/2. So this would be 1/2, this would be 1/2, and this would be 1/2. So if we have 3 copies of 1/2, this would be 1 copy of 1/2, this would be a second copy of 1/2, and this would be a third copy of 1/2. And again, if each rectangle represents 1 unit, we can see that 3 copies of 1/2 is equal to 1 1/2, or as an improper fraction, we would have a denominator of 2, and then 2 times 1 plus 1 would give us 3/2. Procedurally, to find this product, we would write 3 as 3 over 1 times 1 over 2, and then multiply the numerators and denominators since there are no common factors between the numerators and denominators. 3 times 1 is 3, and 1 times 2 is 2, so we have 3/2, which is equivalent to 1 1/2. Now let's consider a similar example of 2 times 1/4. We can think of 2 times 1/4 as having 2 copies of 1/4. So again, if each rectangle is 1 unit, then this piece here would be 1/4, and so would this piece here. So for 2 times 1/4, we have 2 copies of 1/4. So here's 1 copy of 1/4, and here's a second copy of 1/4. And since the rectangle is 1 unit, we have 2/4, which is equal to 1/2. To determine this product without a model, we write 2 as 2 over 1 times 1/4. Notice here 2 and 4 do share a common factor of 2, so we'll simplify before multiplying. There's 1 2 and 2 and 2 2's and 4. Now we multiply. 1 times 1 is 1, and 1 times 2 is 2. But hopefully this model deepens your understanding of what's happening when we multiply by a fraction. Now let's consider 1/2 times 1/3. Again, we can view this as having 1/2 of a copy of 1/3. So if this rectangle is 1 unit, then this piece here would be 1/3, but we want 1/2 of a copy of 1/3, which means if we want half of this, we'd have to divide this in half and only take one of the 2 pieces. So 1/2 of a copy of 1/3 would just be this one piece here. And if we divide this into equal pieces, notice how we'd have 6 equal pieces, and therefore 1/2 times 1/3 would be 1/6. Again, procedurally, notice that 1 times 1 is 1, and 2 times 3 equals 6, giving us a product of 1/6. Let's take a look at one more example that's a little bit more challenging. Here we have 3/4 times 3/4. Again, what's happening here is that we want 3/4 of a copy of 3/4. So again, if this big rectangle here represents 1 whole unit, then this here would be 3/4. But we want 3/4 of a copy of 3/4, which means we want 3/4 of this region here. So because we want 3/4 of this, and it's already divided into 3 equal pieces, we'll divide each smaller piece into 4 smaller pieces. So we would divide it here, and then in half again. That would be 4 pieces. Then we'll divide this in half, and in half again. Then we'll divide this in half, and half again. So if we want 3/4 of these 12 pieces, we want 9 of the 12 pieces. Notice that 9/12 is equivalent to 3/4. So if we want 3/4 of a copy of 3/4, we want 9 of these 12 pieces, which would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Now the last thing we should notice is, if we divide this last piece here into 4 equal pieces, we'd have a total of 16 pieces, in which we have 9 of them, and therefore 3/4 of 3/4 is equal to 9/16. Procedurally, notice that 3 times 3 equals 9, and 4 times 4 equals 16. But hopefully after watching these examples, I hope you have a better understanding of what's happening when we have a product involving fractions. Thank you for watching.